All right, so as I was saying, we always have a little bit of delay on Facebook Live, so it doesn't show up immediately on the screen, so they can make sure that everything is good, so that we're not weird.
You get my hair?
You look really nervous. Are you good? All right, so I think we will go ahead and get started because it's just about 2 o'clock, so we'll give everybody a chance to start joining us on our Facebook Live. There we are. All right, so I am Karen Cooper, and I am the founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate, and I am here today with my business partner, Vicky Noufal.
Yes, hi, I'm Vicky Noufal, and we are excited to talk to you guys today about time mastery and skills that we've kind of honed and learned over the years to help us with our business.
This is Vicky's first time doing one of these, so she might be a little nervous, and I haven't really prepped her very much for this. So, and then as always, we have our official director, Melissa Oliver, is behind the camera, so she is going to be feeding us questions. If you guys have any questions while we are recording, please type them in the comments, and Melissa will share them with us. I'm going to try to monitor that a little bit myself too. So, what are we going to do today? Today, we're going to talk about time mastery.
Yep.
So, you know, one of the things that we talk a lot about is how time is the thing that we really want the most, but that we tend to use the worst. And so, over the years, you and I have come up with a lot of different tips.
Right. Strategies, things we have, tried to improve upon because we have very limited time. We're both moms, 3 boys each.
Yes.
And sell real estate full time. We managed a team, so we have a lot on our plate. And so we have to be efficient with our time in order to accomplish all that we need to get done.
That's right. We had to talk about this at our brokerage last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, there's some people. Why are some people, people like Oprah Winfrey and Richard Branson and these people who do these big, amazing things? They have the exact same amount of time in a day as we do. So how is it that they're able to accomplish so much more? And it's because they've learned how to master their time. So we're going to share with you today a few of our favorite tips and tricks, the things that work for us that we have learned over time that help us. We're also going to talk a little bit about vacations today. We are in peak summer season.
Really.
We have vacations coming up.
We both have vacations coming up in July, so it's critical that you take time to recharge your battery. And when you leave, you can actually leave and come back, fully ready to go. So what's the best way to do that? Exactly.
So we're going to share with you the things that we do and what we've learned for how to get away and make vacation something that is fun and enjoyable. So for the first thing, let's talk about one of the it's not really a tip, but just kind of a mindset, right? We talk about mindset all the time. So when it comes to time management, the first thing I think to understand is a yes to one thing equals a no to something else.
Right.
So anytime we're saying yes to something, if you're saying yes to going to a happy hour, for example, then that means you're saying no to something else. You're saying no to having dinner with your family. If you are saying yes to, we gave the example last week of, binging Netflix in an afternoon. Well, that means you're saying no to client appointments, or you're saying no to prospecting time. So I think the first thing is understanding that concept.
Right. When you take the time, for example, to prospect for your business or to market or to basically look for things that are innovative that's going to help you move forward, that is basically saying yes to a abundant, healthy business, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So when it comes to managing your time, I think the most important thing is first really understand what it is that you're saying yes to and understand what that means that you're saying no to. So that's kind of the first concept. And then the second concept before we get into some of our tips is understanding the value of the things that you're doing. So everything is, not everything is weighted the same, right? Running errands does not have the same weight in terms of time as prospecting.
Right.
Or going on a listing appointment or sitting at an open house. So really understanding what is the high value or a low value activity, because the better you understand the quality and the value of the activities that you're doing, the better you are going to be able to prioritize them in your schedule. So for example, for me, I've talked about this before, a high value activity for me is driving my kids to school. It doesn't take a lot of effort for me. It's a very low effort activity. It's very high value in terms of the return of what I get out of it. So for me, it's worth it to prioritize that versus doing something like, going to the dry cleaners is less important. So that's not something that necessarily I need to do.
That's right. I know some of the things we've talked about is, grocery things that need to get done: laundry, groceries, house cleaning, all of those things. So it's trying to figure out, is it better for you to hire out some of those things and then put your energy and time into the things that only maybe you can do?
Right.
So that's, just, I guess, looking at your life as a whole and figuring out what's your best and highest use.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of one of our first tips is, and I think we both do this really well, is we've learned to buy back our time. So what that means is we've really learned to delegate. And so delegating, sometimes that just means you have to pay for it. But again, if you're able to get some more time back, for example, if you can pay someone to maybe deliver some pop buys for you, or if you can pay someone to assemble your pop buys, or run some errands for you for your listing or for your home, that is an activity that is going to then buy you back time that you can spend doing something that's maybe more high value for yourself, like spending time prospecting. I think that's the thing that it's like taking care of yourself. Right, we tend to want to procrastinate the exercise and the good diet, and taking care of your business, which is the prospecting. Those are the things that we tend to push to the bottom of the list because they're maybe not the most fun and they're maybe not the most comfortable.
Definitely. Like for me, one thing that's helped me greatly in my business is having consistent, reliable, childcare for my kids. Because once I had that, what it gave me is peace of mind that I knew that they were well taken care of, and it allowed me to, when I was at work, to really focus on work. That was been a huge thing.
It's huge. It's huge, and that was huge for me as well. Finding, what maybe you are not at a point in your business where you can hire an assistant or a transaction manager, but maybe you are at a point where you could pay a high school student or college student who's home for the summer to do some errands for you, maybe go to the grocery store, or if you think about all of the things that we do in the course of a day,
so much,
it's exhausting,
especially as women. We are responsible for mostly for our households and our businesses and our kids. And so I know for me, definitely certain hours of the day between 3 and 8 p.m. those are the busiest times in our households, with practices and soccer and meals and all the things that need to get done. So definitely that's been a high value, the highest value.
Exactly. So if there's things that you can pay someone else to do for you, or maybe utilizing a service. I love some of the grocery services, like Amazon has a Prime Pantry service. So if you have like some dry goods or non-perishables that you tend to use a lot in your household, I'll use that and just have them shipped directly to my house. Or we shop at Harris Teeter, and they have an online shopping. It takes me just a couple of minutes. It's only like $5 is the service charge, and I can order my groceries, and then I can just drive right up at the time I want and pick them up, and they'll load my car. So things like that. I mean, it doesn't sound like, okay, maybe I saved an hour, but an hour is huge. An hour means an hour of time that I can spend connecting with my kids. Or an hour of time that I can spend taking care of my clients or taking care of my business.
I mean, I think the key to maximizing your time, it really comes in the planning and organization, because maximizing time takes effort. But once you do it, it really, it pays itself tenfold.
Dividends,
right?
For a long time to play. Yeah, that's a great. So that makes me think of, and I've talked about this before. I had a big eye-opening experience last summer when I cleaned out my closet, which sounds like a silly thing, but I'm sure a lot of us, when you're getting ready in the morning, we all have things in our closet that we don't necessarily like, that maybe don't fit us just so, but we feel like we have to hang on to them. And so getting dressed in the morning can be stressful. You're going through 5 different outfits. You've got stuff spread all over the floor. Right. And so I got fed up, and I spent some time last year, and I pulled everything out. I tried everything on, and I only put back what I loved. I put back things that fit me well. I put back things that I enjoyed wearing. So from that point on, for me, getting ready in the morning was actually simple, because I had fewer decisions to make. I had laid the groundwork. I had done the prep work, so I could grab, whatever, and I knew it worked. And so that really opened my eyes to what else can I apply that to in my business, or elsewhere in my life that can help me save time.
Make things easier. So every couple of minutes saved here is a couple of minutes earned somewhere else.
Absolutely right. 100% correct. So that's something that has worked really well. Do you have a question?
Yeah, can I read a question?
Yeah, please.
So what do you suggest when your brokerage is 45 minutes from your house and you have to drive there to drop off a deposit or commission check or something?
Yeah, so I would find a runner. I think a runner is one of the best things that you can do, and is maybe the easiest way to start with help in your real estate business. A runner can be, we have a great runner who works with us, and she's a stay-at-home mom, and so that's perfect for her just to have a few extra hours. It could be a college student or a high school student. If that's the situation that you're running into, I would definitely do that. I would
right, or see if maybe there's other people around you that work in the office that maybe can like hand deliver it, or if you feel comfortable, you can always send it via like FedEx or something certified.
Yes.
Because your time is much higher value than spending an hour, 45 minutes driving and 45 minutes driving.
Exactly.
That's 2 hours of the day that's lost.
Exactly.
That you could be doing something, I guess more productive.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's one of the other things that we, think about, and I know you talk about, is figuring out what your hourly rate is, and that can be hard in our business. That I have heard everything from $500 an hour to $2,000 an hour, but when you really value what an hour of our time is as business owners in our businesses, and then anything that's going to be less than that you can hire out for less than that, to me, something that you can hire somebody to do for $10 or $15 an hour is a no-brainer.
Yes. I would always go back, what I always used to do is I'd go back and look at the last year's sales, or maybe I'd go back and average the last 2 or 3 years of sales. I estimate roughly how many hours a week I work, and then I kind of can break down what my hourly rate is, and then it became very clear what needs to be delegated and what is something I do. Like we always talk about, our best activities is, prospecting, listing, negotiating, closing. And those are the main activities that we should be doing. Everything else, it's best to hire out. And it's important to note, like, don't feel overwhelmed. We didn't do this overnight. It's in slowly we've adjusted so that we became, sort of the business we have now.
That's right. You start small. You start with one thing, and maybe, for example, with the question that we had about the taking the EMD to the office 45 minutes away, that could be a small thing that you start with that you then build on from there. I mean, one of the things that we like to think about, and again, talking about the high value versus low value activities, is what are the things that only you can do or only you should do. Only I should be taking my clients to lunch. Only I should be volunteering in my child's classroom. Those are things that I can't delegate out. Only I should be prospecting for my business based on the type of business that I do. So those are the things that are important for me to prioritize. Running a check somewhere, dropping off a pop by, that's something that I've changed. I realized that a lot of my clients were not home, so it didn't necessarily matter that I dropped them off because they didn't see me anyway. So those are things that it's good to delegate.
Yeah, I mean, it's so often that you kind of look back on your day, and we've all had these days. I have them quite often where I look back and think, like, what did I do today? So it's very easy to get confused between being busy and being productive.
Yes.
So, things that sort of drain your time from your day, maybe go back and sort of do like an audit on your last week or the last month and how you spent your time. If you maybe even keep a log of how you spend your time, and then go back and say, what things can I eliminate and what things should I be introducing into my schedule, whether it's services or assistance or whatever it is that you think is going to help you go to the next level in your business.
Right, absolutely. And I think what that kind of leads into, and we've sort of talked about this briefly a little bit, is prioritizing the most important things, and that means prioritizing prospecting. And we all hate to hear that.
Yeah.
That is the least fun thing.
It is.
We don't love it.
No.
We this many years in, and we still don't love it. And I don't, I'm not sure that everybody does love it, but you need to prioritize it. So think about what's going to drive your business forward. Yes, making sure that transaction that I'm in the middle of is handled well, and that the addendums are going where they need to. All of that is a very important part of my work. But when that is done, I'm not going to have a business if I don't do some consistent prospecting. So prioritizing that is really important when it comes to managing your time in your business.
That's right. I mean, what you want to avoid, and the struggle is real. I mean, we face it daily, but you want to avoid a yo-yo business, a roller coaster ride.
Yes.
And I think naturally all of us are nurturers, and we tend to want to spend more time on the actual sale, the transaction, which is what we need to do because we are offering a service.
Right.
But if we only did that and didn't think about maybe the future, so then you lose your pipeline and you're starting over. It's sort of a vicious cycle. So,
It is. Let's talk about efficiency in our business. That's one of the things that we like to do. And one thing that I notice that people tend to do, and I am definitely guilty of this with my to-do list every day, is we tend to try to make our lower value activities more efficient. Or we tend to do those first because they seem easier, right? Making the phone call to the school is a quick thing to do. Running to the post office to get stamps is a quick thing to do. So those are quick, but like you said, you can easily fill your day with tasks like that and feel like you've been really, really busy, but you really haven't been productive and you haven't moved your business forward. So when it comes to efficiency, focus on the things that are pain points in your business and your life. What are the things that seem to take the most time? In my household, the morning is a struggle, right? Like that hour from the time everybody's getting up until we get out the door is rough.
Yeah.
So I try to spend some time thinking about how can I make that more efficient? What are some things that I can do? Are there things I can prep the night before? Can I load all of my stuff in the car the night before? What can I do to make sure that the morning time is going to be as efficient and streamlined as possible?
Yeah, I think she's a master of efficiency. And I've learned a lot from you over the years. For me, I don't do well with my minutia details. Like I get very frustrated. So for me, I would spend hours in the past trying to figure out how to make the brochure and how to drop the graphics in, and things that really I wasn't very good at. So I learned in the end it's much better for me to find someone who is really good at it and do I think understanding your natural talents and gifts
absolutely
helps you with your efficiency. Like I know you've done a lot of things that I've learned again from sending out emails. She plans ahead, you schedule them to go out the next morning. You've learned to do things in batches.
Yes.
Which is the idea that if we have to write a blog, she might write 5 at one time because she's going to get it done much faster, and then basically schedule them as to their release.
Exactly.
That's really smart.
Anytime you have to start and stop an activity, or anytime you're transitioning from one activity to another, you're losing time, and the time that it takes you, it's the same thing, and I'm sure we all experience this in our business when the phone rings all the time, text messages are coming through, the Facebook Messenger is going off, and you're trying to focus on whether it's writing a contract for someone or you're running some comps or maybe you're working on some marketing, it's hard to focus because of those constant interruptions. So when I have something that I need to do that's kind of a repetitive task, I will turn off the phone, I will block the notifications, and I will do as many of that same task in one time. And I find that I can be so much more efficient. I can get a lot of things done very quickly. When I do it that way.
Same. I mean, I think many times the best time management skill we can teach you is just to take your phone and turn it downwards because all of a sudden your focus can, multitasking is really not very
efficient. No, it's not efficient at all.
So sometimes, I have my to-do list that I do every night, and I'm talking to different clients throughout the day. I'm constantly adding. So every night I evaluate what needs to get done. If I come in the mornings, I might just shut things off because we're inundated with information, as you mentioned, Facebook and Messenger and text, and there's like 10 different ways people can reach you. So the more of that, the more interruption and disruption to your mind, the less efficient we become.
Absolutely. And speaking of efficiency, one way to really help you with your efficiency is to have checklists or systems. I like to say checklists are sexy because they really can help you get a lot done. I heard something once, someone said that if there's a task that you do more than a couple of times, that you should have a system for it. And I found that, when my business was growing, I was maybe, 7 or so years into my business, and things were really starting to grow. I found myself being completely overwhelmed by things I knew how to do. For example, I know what I need to do when I have a listing. When I have a new listing, I kind of go through the same list of process, right? The same process. I order the sign, and I would, all of the things. And what I found, though, is the busier I became in my business, the harder it became to do those things because I would forget. I would forget which one did I do this for this person, even though I knew what to do, because I didn't have a process or a documented system for handling it. It was so much more difficult, and I would wake up in the middle of the night worried, oh my gosh, did I not order that termite for that closing on Friday, or whatever the thing is. So if you have things that you find that you're doing consistently, specifically when it comes to your processes for your transactions, I would encourage you to take some time and write them out. Write out the system, write out the steps that you take, and then implement that.
Definitely. I mean, I think we've all felt that anxiety that we wake up at night and you think, what did I forget? What did I not do? And definitely with more volume, you have to have checklists. I remember we went to one conference one time where they said, like if you're doing 15 or 18 transactions or something of that sort, beyond that, you have to have checklists, but really much sooner than that. You should really sort of start develop, because what happens is you get very good at it if your system is consistent, and really it earns you more repeat business, more referrals, and that's what makes so good. So,
absolutely. And the great thing about taking some time to do that now, even though you may be thinking, my gosh, my business is not where I want it to be, take the time to hone that system and to establish that system and checklist now, because when you do get busier and you get to that 10, 15, 20 transactions a year, when you're ready to hire someone to help you, now I'm able to work my system along with Melissa. We're able to do it together. There are certain parts of it that she takes care of, that she's responsible for, and there are certain parts that I'm responsible for. But it's very easy for us to do that because it's all laid out. It's all by design.
And again, it saves a ton of time.
And there's no right way how you want to do that, whether that's a paper checklist. I've used Evernote for it. Now we use Dotloop. So there's a lot of different ways. Let's talk a little bit about boundaries. And we do like this subject. and I think what fits into boundaries too is the conversation you and I have had about rest and refreshment time.
Yes.
Which ties into this also.
It's critical that part of being efficient with your time is and managing your time is setting very defined boundaries. I think over the years, what we have done is, we work very hard. We work hard all the time, but we work very hard during, Monday through Fridays. And then we both really are big believers in taking a rest day.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's Sundays, and for you as well.
For me.
So Sunday is family day. It's also time to, recharge your battery, to recover from the week, to plan out your week, meals, schedules, grocery stores, so that when it's Monday morning, you hit the ground running.
Right.
It's critical, right? And
absolutely. If I don't have that time, I find, and you're right. I mean, Sunday for us now, we're 13 and 16 years in the business. We focus on working with sellers, so weekends are not as critical for us in terms of running around with buyers. But even in earlier stages of my business, for a long time, Monday was my day. Monday was kind of my refreshment day because I might be out on appointments all weekend, but Monday tended to be a quieter day, or Thursday. For a long time, Thursday was my day. So find a time that is going to work for you, because we have to have that little bit of downtime. If you don't, you will burn yourself out. We've been there.
We have been there, right? I mean, we still take phone calls on Sundays,
of course,
but really don't set any client appointments on those days. Other things that we've done is we try to answer phone calls or text messages up until a certain time.
Yeah. For example, last night a client of mine called me sent me a text message at 8:15. Could I chat? And I replied back and I said, I'm settling my children in for the evening. Can I give you a call in the morning? He said, sure, no problem. I said, great. How about 8:30? And that was perfect. So, if you answer the phone late at night, if you answer the phone early in the morning, if you're responding to the text messages, what you're going to find a lot of times is you are taught now, that person, whether it's your client or another agent, that's a good time for them to reach out to you, that's a time when you're available to answer your phone. So there's nothing wrong with saying, 8 o'clock is kind of it for me. Now, obviously, there's always exceptions in our business.
If you're negotiating a contract. And, I think this is a constant struggle for me because, and I think for many of us, because it takes a lot of willpower and discipline on our end to create those boundaries.
Yes.
Because, in no other business, I always laugh. I said, no other business do you, call your attorney when he's on vacation to take a call, or do you call your dentist at 6 a.m. to say, my tooth hurts.
Yeah.
So our business really lacks boundaries, but yet we need them. We have. We don't have weekends and weekdays. There's no check-in, time in, and time out. So it can really burn you out, and really the more burned out you get, the less efficient and the worse that you use your time.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And really what it boils down to is what is being intentional about your schedule and about your time. Maybe 8 o'clock at night is a great time for you. If you have younger children, maybe 8 o'clock is when your kids are in bed, and that's a good time for you. That is a perfect time for you to do a little bit of catch up. And
on email and stuff.
Right, that might be perfect for you. So think about your schedule and your day and your life and what makes sense for you, and establish those boundaries. And one of the things that I also learned, I took a break because I was burned out and I was a managing broker for a while. And during that time, I was very intentional and specific that I wanted to leave the office at a certain time of day, and I wanted to try to turn off the day. That was part of the reason for me going into this position. And so the thing that I learned from that is I was actually so much more efficient and so much more productive during the day because I had that target of a time that I wanted to leave. And I do notice for myself, it works great for me now when I work in the office. The days I work from home, this is harder to implement because, there's nobody standing over our shoulder all day. And so it can be really easy in the middle of the day to take a little break and playing on Facebook or going and running an errand, or you need to do something. Well, I'll just do that later, and then before you know it, the kids are home. You've got stuff going on in the evening, and then it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock at night, and you're trying to play catch up. So when you have that kind of guideline of that time that you want to shut it down for the day and go home, whether it's 5, 6,
and those guidelines are really self-imposed because we don't have boundaries. It's important to set them, and I think you'll be happier for it because it allows you to have a very long, sustainable career where you can enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, one of the things that comes along with the boundaries is, this is your business, so you want to treat it like a business. And be the boss of your schedule. One of the mistakes that I see, and I learned this when I very first started in the business, someone told me that, number one, everything is an appointment, so you don't necessarily have to explain yourself. Whether it's time with your family or whatever you're doing, you simply need to say, I'm sorry, I have an appointment, offer another suggestion. Or when it comes time to setting appointments with clients, you never want to say, and you're smiling because you're so guilty of this, you don't want to say, when would you like to meet? Because
we love to accommodate.
We love to accommodate.
But it's not good.
It's not good. No, because what happens is you'll say, when would you like to meet? And they're going to pick the one time during the week that you said you'd take your kids to the movies, or the one time that you said you would meet a friend for lunch. And so, and not only that, but what you've done is you have now kind of set the expectation that you are available whenever. So whenever you need to make an appointment with a client, you always make the suggestions. I can meet with you today at 4 or tomorrow at 10. What works best for you? Or would afternoon or evening be better for you? You kind of drive the time frame, and 95% of the time, they're going to pick what you.
And you know what? You're so right on this. I am guilty as charged, but I think what it does, it speaks levels about your professionalism.
Yes.
Because a professional, that's what they would do. They would sort of lead and say, I'm available here. Or here.
Right.
I'm not available. I have an appointment. I'm going into an appointment at 12. I can speak to you today between 3 and 4. It really, it's empowering.
It's very empowering.
One of the best things I've ever learned.
It is, and it really helps you to manage your business a lot better. So one of our last topics that we want to talk about today, which this is the perfect time of year to discuss, is vacations.
Yeah. We're excited about ours.
We are excited about vacations. So we both like to travel. I don't really like to travel, but I like to take vacations to places I'm comfortable with. You like to travel.
I do.
And so my very first year in business, I had a family vacation that was completely ruined by a client that ended up, and it was my fault. It wasn't the client's fault. I left late. I came back early, all for someone who never ended up buying something. And so I learned through that experience that it's okay for me to take a vacation and to unplug from my business. And that can be very, very scary. Our businesses, a lot of us are independent contractors. We're all independent contractors, but we might be independent agents. You work alone. And so it can be really frightening to think of shutting off your business. What's going to happen? Am I going to lose business? But what I have found is when you establish the expectations up front with your clients, when you have a plan in place for how things are going to happen, it's not an issue.
Right. Same. I remember many years back, I think I was early on, but I spent an entire vacation where I did have someone that was covering for me, but I think I spent, much of my time on a phone. There was a very difficult transaction, and I was on the beach, and I had So I went on vacation, but I really did not
Take vacation.
I did not take vacation.
Yeah.
And some of it, I don't know what, I think it's just, we may feel like we're indispensable or nobody else can do it. But the truth is, if you don't take a time out, if you don't rest, if you don't take that time for yourself and your family, it really affects everything at home in terms of relationships, and you don't come back better for it.
No.
You really have to,
to take that time.
And there's, we've learned many different things. I mean, we always make sure we know who's covering for us. All our voice messages, emails, everything it says, when we're going and who's covering for us. Even you do a text.
Yeah, you can do a text. You can do, I use an iPhone, and you can do a keyboard shortcut on your iPhone. And so all I have to do is type in a couple of letters. If I get a text message while I'm away, I just type in a couple of letters, and it says, I'm currently out of the office on vacation. Here's who you need to contact. The key is have a system, have a plan. So if we have a team, so it's a little easier for us to coordinate with each other and cover for each other. If you have an assistant, that's great. Your assistant can be your primary point of contact. But even if you're an independent agent, find someone in your office that you trust and cover for each other. Take turns. You don't have to pay someone. There's a million different ways. The beauty of being independent business owners is that we can plan things the way that we want. We can design things the way that we want. So think about what works for you. What works for me is, I don't answer the phone. I will only talk to the person who's covering for me. First thing in the morning and usually in the evening, I'll do a quick run through my email just to make sure that something didn't come in that I think needs my attention, or something maybe didn't get forward, something that's important to the person who's covering for me. And that's really it. I've never lost business by it. I make sure I notify all of my clients before I leave that I'm going to be gone. This is what the plan is. And they're going on vacations too. So it's not like they don't expect it from me.
No, I've never lost business by it, and I think I'm better for it.
Absolutely, because it gives us that chance to rest. So I think that about covers. Did we have any other questions that we needed to discuss, Melissa?
No, if anybody wants to type any in.
Okay, so if you have any last minute questions, we're going to wrap it up, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. But I think that really kind of covers it. The thing that I have learned, and I think you too, is even time management is a process, and the longer I get to know myself, the better I understand what works for me, the better I get at this process. So you can't expect to master your time immediately the next day, tomorrow, by implementing a system. A lot of it is trial and error, finding something that works for you and then tweaking it. The seasons of our life change, especially if you have children. There are, depending on the age range, the age group, every level has a new devil, right? Whether they're school age or they're at home or they're in high school or they're in college. There's changes to each one, and same with our business. Our businesses are very cyclical. There's times of year where we're spending a lot of time hustling and prospecting and running around, and there's other times where it's quieter and we're maybe spending time with organization. So be flexible, but also have a plan, and I think that that's the key.
Right, I think very well said. I think there's always a solution when it comes to time management. If you started to feel like there is a lot of business, you don't really know what to do and how to manage your time, there's always showing assistance, there's always options on, even the question we had about the check. I mean, if you think about it, we could probably come up with tons of solutions when there's thought put into it. And I agree with you, it's a skill that's honed. I think many years ago I couldn't have dreamt that I could have 3 kids and be able to be have this type of production, but over the years we get better and better.
Right. And the way that you get better and better is being curious and being willing to try new things. That is really the key.
That's right.
So I hope that was helpful. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. We are not going to have a monthly meetup or a Facebook Live in July because we are on vacation.
That's right.
So we will be gone, but we will be catching back up with everybody in August. So have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.